We're back in the Lighthouse Diary. The dog isn't home for this episode. So therefore, if I end up screaming in this or projecting really loudly, I won't feel so self-conscious because apparently dogs, they have more sensitive hearing, obviously, than humans. So there's that. And I really feel my period coming soon. So I guess it's kind of a relief that the dog is not home, also in the sense that I'm a lot more sluggish on my period, so she doesn't have to put up with that. So, okay, you know what? I want to start this off by answering a query. I want to break it down as simply as possible. So, I don't want to blame anybody, but once upon a time, I fulfilled a popular ASMR trigger request. And for this trigger request, specifically, it was me kissing flat glass, and the closest that I could do to accomplish that was kiss a glass plate that my sister bought. And did I say this already? Anyways, long story short, it was deemed inappropriate by the website that you are watching this entry on, and cutting to the chase, it gave me a bit of a wake-up call that if I keep pushing to please my thirst trap, if you will, if I'm being completely honest. If I keep trying to appease my thirst trap, and what do I mean by thirst trap? Thirst trap, I mean, if I keep trying to quench that thirst for more viewership, even if it's by doing something that I don't feel 100% comfortable with. Long story short, no offense to anybody, but it's just not worth it. I'm not psychic, but I had kind of a feeling that was going to happen with taking up requests at one point. And yeah, basically YouTube confirmed that for me. It's just like, okay, I guess my gut feeling was right. That it just cannot continue even if it, garners lots and lots of attention. I have a bit of a tummy ache. Oh, it's okay. So yeah, there's that. And leading up to, that moment, I won't even lie to you, doing ASMR kisses, it was fun in the beginning. In fact, it was basically for myself. In the beginning. And of course I noticed that was getting me more viewership than ever before. So of course I milked it. I'll admit it. But another factor that came into play, not just emotional and, guideline-wise, I was starting to feel a little bit tired and almost numb in my lips. And although I'm not the best at talking, I do need my lips to communicate on a daily basis. So I know this sounds insane, but yes, I could have done ASMR kisses to the point that my lips would feel like they're numb, or my lips would feel like that they fell off of my face. So again, not to hurt anyone's feelings, but that's the truth. So, and with that being said, it coincided with this I guess you could say obsession. Crap, how do I say this? Yeah, basically, I was borderline obsessed with trying to find the next thing that will entertain you and others. And the thing is, obsession can be really, as you have seen in probably people that you have encountered or even in the media, obsession isn't always the most positive thing. And let's just say this obsession for wanting to, be more clickable and watchable and what have you. Obviously, as you probably have been able to tell from the past several minutes, yeah, it really just took a toll on me. It just, how do I say this? The more that I tried to go about that obsession, the less that I felt like a person. I know that sounds so cliche, but it's true. And honestly, I'm still in that recovery process of feeling like my own person again, which is the point of me going back to my roots of just full on expressing how I feel and how I view situations as I come across them. Hence why it's now the Lighthouse Diary. So I hope that has clarified things. And I figured while we're on the topic, I kind of want to go over some things that have almost taken over my life and my more recent decision to cut back on specific things. Yeah, let me start this off by saying, well, let me start off this next segment, so to speak, by saying I was, especially when I was a teenager, I really had a bit of a capitalist mentality. And I think it's been 4 years that I've been questioning my capitalist behavior and researching about it, here and there, not religiously. And I'll be honest, my journey in minimalism hasn't been particularly easy. But ironically, as hard as it was, irrespective of how sentimental I felt towards certain belongings, or not, or somewhere in between, I still felt like it was freeing in a way. because I know, it's really common when talking about, uh, let's just put it this way. When talking about endings in our lives, it's especially very emotional endings in our lives, it's highly recommended to have physical distance from things that we in our minds attach to specific memories that honestly don't bring us up anymore. And so a lot of the time when I didn't feel comfortable donating, or let's be honest, I haven't succeeded in reselling my stuff, uh, I would just feel at peace with, decluttering and downsizing certain things and giving those things to relatives, or a lot of the time add it to a purchase that I have made for a friend's gift or that kind of thing, and have this mindset of like, okay, they not only will they have something that is new, they'll also have something that I didn't really make much of a connection with, or I no longer have a connection with, so they have both something old and something new. I hope that will come across as interesting. And clearly it has. And I would find most, if not all the time, when I would do that, the old stuff that I would give as part of gifts for friends, yeah, and nieces and nephews too. Actually, my cousins too. And yeah. Oh yeah, and my parents too. Yeah, oftentimes those things that I would give, they would receive those old things would receive more love, so to speak, than I would ever give those things when I still had them. So it's just, yeah, it hurts to do at first because of just being so used to having those things there, really. But then after a while, it's just like, no, that was the best thing to do for my mental health. Sure, I have to get used to it for a bit, but I do think I'm getting better at it. So there's that. Okay, I'm not the best at transitions, but let me transition into not so materialistic things that I'm trying to cut back on. Okay, so I not a lot of people are gonna like what I have to say, but on a regular basis, I would watch or listen to YouTube tarot readings. And at first, it started out with, you know what, I want some free compliments because let's just be honest, maybe, yeah, especially a few years ago, I felt just insulted, like left, right, and center. And usually, in horoscopes and anything along those lines, there's always going to be like these sugary, like, things that you can basically, no offense, but you can basically say to anyone, but nevertheless, it still feels nice to hear. I know, pathetic. Yeah, at first it started out as, you know what, I'm not receiving enough affirmation in my physical surroundings and my uh, um, connections with people, well, at that time, right? I wouldn't say that was true for everybody, but for those that were there immediately in my physical surroundings. So, just to give clarification. So, I would do that, and I'm not gonna lie to you, there was a bit of a pseudo romance when I was 20 years old. Uh, it went terribly wrong. It went terribly wrong, and I'm not gonna lie, listening to particular readers, even if I disagreed with some of the details of, what they were reading per se, they would offer some life skills that they have acquired over the years, and that became, one of the main reasons I would keep watching, because I did not have those life skills. And I'm not talking about necessarily law of attraction kind of thing, but just basic mindsets that I've never heard of from other people before, that I've never considered to be a reality before myself, or that wasn't spoken about enough in regular media. So it's just like, oh my gosh, these are like, a lot of the time you could be watching a tarot reading that is not done by someone who is considered psychic by general society, but they would just have, a lot of the times they would have that missing piece that you did not know that you were looking for. And then all of a sudden you can just see your situation in a light where it's just like, oh. Not in the sense that you were necessarily doing anything wrong, but basically take something that you might see in your life that doesn't make sense, but then all of a sudden with that new missing piece it suddenly makes sense. So does that make sense, what I was saying? But let me get into why I've been cutting back on it. Sometimes readings would be so accurate to my emotions that it would hurt. And this isn't like a denial kind of issue. A lot of the time when I would feel emotionally hurt, whether it's from a tarot reading, whether it's from like a life advice video, whether it's just from talking with a friend, a lot of the time I noticed that the hurt would come from paranoia, and I'm not gonna lie, that would lead me to second guess myself to the point where it would be detrimental, not just to me but to others as well. So then that's when I thought to myself, okay, I think I've crossed a line here. I definitely need to step back, because the thing is that, yes, I might be feeling hurt from certain people, and that would be part of why I would continue listening to readings, as I have mentioned before, to get that closure or that missing piece that I know I can't get directly from the person in my physical life. I know it probably sounds silly. But at the same time, I guess my discernment really kicked up a notch and helped me to realize, you know what? I have to know when something is my situation that they're reading, or if the reading is actually much worse than my situation has to be. Again, I'm not, suggesting go ahead and just romanticize your life. But sometimes you have to realize that, wait, my life could be as bad as someone else tells me it is if I make it so. So I had to, I guess hold myself accountable in terms of my sanity, and that's something that I have to just, okay, tarot readings, you need to sit right there, because now I'm acting from a place of fear, And if tarot readings are supposed to be like a spiritual thing, I can't, you know, as someone who sees themselves as a spiritual person, I just simply cannot act in fear, you know, all day, every day, right? Because that would just be me contradicting myself. I never told, oh, actually, there was only like one person that I've met who I've admitted that I listen to tarot readings, because she actually does readings for herself and for her friends, so it felt okay. But yeah, just anyone else, I wouldn't even mention it. So I guess it's kind of hard for me to explain it right now because I've only spoke about it with one person. Then again, majority of anything that I would share online, chances are I don't share it in my 3D reality for fear of offending somebody a lot of the time. Let's be real, put that out there. You learned something new about me today. So yeah, there was another thing that oh yeah. Okay. So I have mentioned my personal concerns about and experiences with narcissism / narcissistic behavior and colorism / coloristic behavior in the past. And it's kind of more of a recent thing. Well, actually, yeah, with the narcissism research and talking about it and that kind of thing, that one is not too recent. I would say I've cut back on that for like a year now. And I know a lot of people, like, you know, who have experienced that probably wouldn't recommend that I do that. But the thing is that I've, again, not to be cocky, but I have, you know, listened to so many perspectives to the point that it does get tiring. I don't recommend, you know, researching narcissism and that kind of behavior on a daily basis every single day. Maybe once a month at most, if I'm being completely honest. Because the thing is that, again, going back to the piece that I spoke on earlier, I don't want to be constantly living in a state of fear and acting on a state of fear. And I guess I know this sounds ironic, I was starting to become afraid that I was becoming paranoid of like, wait, is that person a narcissist? Is that person a narcissist? Are those people narcissistic? I feel strongly, you know, not just from hearing about it, but for living it out myself, that it helps so much just to not care or give very much attention to anyone who displays, you know, narcissistic tendencies or behavior and that kind of thing. It just helps so much not to give all or most of my attention to how it's wrong, because the thing is that I want to be focused on, you know, what feels right in my life, you know? Because I feel if I'm constantly focusing or, you know, perplexed by super self-indulgent people, it feels like my day just dissipates so easily, and then my day starts to lose its meaning and starts to lose its what do you call it? Its magic, so to say, you know? Yeah, I don't want to give power to narcissists or narcissistic people. But it doesn't mean that, you know, that I completely ignore what I've learned. I obviously still consider, you know, what I've learned, but I don't want to go too deep into it because I'm trying to adopt this mindset where if anyone has a problem with me, narcissistic or not, I I don't I literally do not have the energy to care. And this is not me trying to be a bitch or try to be like bougie, like I'm so much better than them. Like clearly I'm not better than anybody, and I've had so many encounters where, you know, someone would come up to me and be like, "Who the fuck do you think you are?" I've heard everything along the lines of "Who the fuck do you think you are?" I'm used to it. And the thing is, here's the thing that if I were to answer somebody who asked me something along those lines, my answer would literally be who I think I am always changes. So, for you to even like ask me that question, I literally will never have an answer to because I don't know. And sorry. Again, Kaylee Lighthouse thing always going on tangents, but that's part of what makes Kaylee Lighthouse, right? Going on a tangent. I mentioned this before. I was a Lush employee, and I guess they welcome me back to work seasonally anytime I'm ready, which is nice. So I still feel like I'm part of the Lush family. I mean, they're always going to email me promotions and that kind of thing. It's still kind of nice. I mean, it's nice to hear about new scents and that kind of thing. And new products and whatever, and like promotion, blah blah blah. Well, especially if it's a company that you like, right? And although working for Lush wasn't the best match for me, for lack of better words, I'm still grateful for the experience because although I was very insecure as an employee there, well, maybe not insecure, but more like super self conscious as an employee there, I am glad that for the majority of, you know, my coworkers and that kind of thing, they really spoke their minds. Most of them would speak their minds in a very constructive way. Maybe not always, but yeah, you get to hear some valuable things here, there, and everywhere. Uh, here, there. Wait, sorry, hold on just a second. Okay, so maybe not all of your coworkers, regardless of where you work for, have valuable or helpful things to say. I'm just gonna put that disclaimer out there, so excuse my choice of saying here, there, and everywhere. Okay. Sorry. My tummy is still telling me, like, I'm hurting, like, okay. So, anyways, I've learned secondhand that regardless what age you become, whether, you know, you're a child in your teens, in your 20s, or even in your 60s, you know, everything in between and beyond, you're never going to actually know yourself. I'm just really taking that in. You know what? When you're, in school and that kind of thing, a lot of the teachers are going to give you these inspirational, motivational speeches of, you need to find out who you are, find out what you want right now. That's the gist of it, right? I mean, sorry, not to disregard anyone who would have a different opinion, who just so happens to be a teacher at the same time. That's not what I'm trying to do. But for a lot of us, we would get that speech, figure out who you are, figure out what you want to do with your life right now, right? That whole, let's be honest, propaganda for everyone to go to school and, choose jobs that are related to what they studied, when it's actually extremely common for, kids to go to school, or like for anyone to go to school and just do something completely different after school, because, that's very normal in life. But not a lot of people want to talk about that before you go to, post-secondary. But yeah, even after you graduate school, if you do, choose to go to school or finish the school, and you start working and that kind of thing, you're still not going to know everything about yourself and everything about your potential. You still have the rest of your life to figure out what your potential is, moment by moment, day by day, year by year. No one is going to just have it all figured out while they're still alive and breathing. You will, have many moments where you feel like, oh, I completely understand this aspect now. I completely understand that aspect now. Or, feel that is so, right? But if we want to get, again, I don't want to disrespect anyone's, spiritual or religious beliefs, but my personal opinion is that, again, emphasis on the word opinion, I believe that none of us is God over our own life, if that makes sense. And I also believe that no one is God over their own selves. Can I try to explain that? Should I try to explain that? I feel like none of us is ever going to have this sense of omniscience when it comes to our damn selves, is what I mean by that, I strongly feel that even when we pass, and even if we feel like we fulfilled everything that we were meant to fulfill, there's no way of possibly knowing that we have done everything that we should have done while we were on this planet. I'm not trying to give anyone an existential crisis, but how can we possibly measure potential is my question. That's just impossible. You just can't measure something like that, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, but yeah, getting back on topic. As I mentioned earlier, I've also been, this is more of a recent thing, aka starting today that I'm recording this diary, where I'm trying to cut back on not just talking about colorism, but looking into, you know, videos about colorism and that kind of thing. And the reason why is not to accept, you know, prejudice and all that stuff related to it, you know, in my day-to-day life, and not to push prejudice on like anybody else. No, 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 no. But let's just say this. I feel like I've done enough, actually, sorry. Let me rephrase that. Because I don't really think that in this world that will never be satisfied with anybody or anything, that there really is such thing as doing enough. Is there? So anyways, let's just say I've done, you know, some listening and researching on colorism to the point that I realize, you know what? As long as I act on, you know, not just questioning subconscious biases in and of itself, but as long as I choose to not continue acting on or giving power to those subconscious biases going forward, and at the same time knowing that there are others who are secretly aware of it and want to see the change, the best thing that I can do, you know, instead of dragging like this demographic or that demographic, it's super corny, but I can just be the change that I want to see. So not being, you know, attracted to someone, whether like it's a friend or like whatever, you know, for their color. And not, you know, choosing to dismiss or not give a chance to somebody else because of their color, because again, I've been on that receiving end, and even when there was a part in my life where I didn't realize I was on the receiving end, if I were, yeah, not to stroke my own ego or make you see me some type of way, but even if I would sense that something was up before even knowing what colorism was, it would just deeply affect me. Seeing it happen to somebody else but not have a word for it. And I think that's part of, you know, me being affected so emotionally when I would witness it. Partially because I wouldn't know how to explain it until now. That I have witnessed colorism before experiencing it myself. That I was already aware that something wasn't right. And I guess another thing was, at that time, before experiencing it myself, I think what was traumatizing of witnessing it was this aspect of being too afraid to even approach the topic to my parents. Yeah, if I'm being completely honest, I haven't approached my parents about, you know, what I've witnessed for other people simply because I've grown up in a time where it was okay to look down on colors that were outside of your own for whatever branded stereotype that you would be taught, not necessarily by just your parents, but even you know extended family, relatives, or even your own friends. And again, not to put anyone in a box, but I feel like for those who might be watching and who are non-POC, kind of know where I'm coming from when I'm talking about the second hand thing. But again, like, you can be POC and like relate to like both sides of what I just mentioned. But yeah, as you can probably see from me just trying to verbalize why I'm trying to step away from consuming things that discuss colorism. Obviously, there's emotional things involved that I need to, bring back to myself and just kind of nurture it and like nurture those feelings, but also give them enough space to breathe from the craziness in the world, if that makes sense. And I guess with that being said, I don't want to make, whenever I talk about issues along the lines of any ism whatsoever, narcissism, colorism, capitalism, etc., etc., etc. Going into this, I remember just thinking to myself something that I'm about to share right now, and I feel like if I don't share it, I'll deeply regret it. So I want for anyone who has, experienced any of these topics that I just talked about, whether it was directly or indirectly your situation, your life. I can't say what your situation is. I'm not a psychic as far as I'm aware. I might have seen dreams while I was asleep that kind of told me about what I was going to see in the future. But it's not always. But anyway, back on topic. If you yourself have gone through, anything similar, or, have heard about, these kinds of things, and it has, affected you emotionally, or whatever your situation is, if you have, like, some kind of, what's the emotion that I'm feeling right now? Have you guys noticed that I tried to get to my point by dodging the point? I don't know why I keep doing that, but as you can probably tell, this is hard for me to overcome, but I'm working on it. Okay, let me put it this way. if you happen to be somebody that feels out of place, whether it was from one of these topics that I mentioned or anything similar, I want to say that the truth is you are not out of place. And you are normal in a good way, whether people like it or not. You might, experience feelings of not belonging or abnormality. And I don't want to sound corny, but to paraphrase what, a good counselor has told me, those might be your feelings, but your feelings aren't necessarily you, yourself, if that makes sense. So I want to reiterate, you are not, you are not someone who doesn't belong. You are not someone that doesn't have a place, because you do. Just a second. Oh my god. But yeah, if there are any questions for future discussion, feel free to ask those questions. And I think I want to wrap this up by paraphrasing my favorite ASMR artist, the one Lilium. I think, a lot of us have that experience where we can't find that specific perfect shelf that we fit into. And I guess I want to say that maybe, just maybe, you don't have to fit perfectly into a shelf. Maybe it's time for a new shelf to be made just for you. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you feel like there's no place where you fit, you have every right to make space for yourself. Create that shelf. Create your own shelf that feels right for you, if that makes sense. And again, like the one Lilium has talked about, it's good to be different, and it's something that I'm working on myself, where I'm working on becoming proud of what makes me weird, Don't feel like you have to, be, some type of way where you feel like, oh, I need to have something to be loud and like march about and like, you know what I'm saying? Having this sense of belonging, it's a process. It doesn't have to be overnight. And that's still something that I'm trying to accept myself. So maybe we can go through that journey together. And if you want to do it on your own or like somewhere else, that's fine too. Hope this has cleared some air and, you know, was friendly on the ears and the eyes. That would be a bonus. Okay. Before I run out of memory on my phone. See you in the next Lighthouse Diary. And last but not least, can I hit the note? My throat's kind of dry. All right. Hugs and kisses.